writing prior to May 23rd, 2025, and then authorize the 1-year extension, if that's your wish to do that. The project, or the property has closed in escrow, and so it's closed, and the escrow agent is holding the deed, waiting for this contingency to be completed of the funding. So that all occurred just as planned, and this was just a missed deadline. So that's what the request is, and that's what the commission would need to do if you would like to grant it.
Do we have questions from any of the commissioners? Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, it is concerning that you missed the deadline. And we have received some emails about how this may set a precedent for future developers. So I am in favor of granting this extension. But is there anything we can do to keep an eye on the process this time around?
Sure, we can include, if you could even include in the motion, if you'd like, that Homestretch keeps the city apprised of the funding process, maybe monthly as we go along, and checks in so that the commission is aware of how that process is unfolding. Like the city manager said, there is a funding round in MSHDA. It's due, the application's due October 1st, and then there's another one the beginning of April. So that process has its own timeline and process, but it would be good to have maybe monthly updates from Homestretch about how that's going.
Go ahead, Mai.
So I guess, and this could be something that Mr. Stimson may be able to answer, is so the April 1st deadline, would they have a response if they don't get funded in the October funding round? Would the April funding round have a response prior to an extension lapsing? That's my first question. And my second question is how with the MSHDA funding, does that fully close the gap needed to complete this project?
Good question. Would you like to address, Mr. Stimson?
John Stimson with Homestretch. Good question. The first part of your question was, does the extension cover the April deadline to the funding announcement? And I would say probably it would be wise if we were to extend it a little bit beyond April of next year, so that it allows MSHDA the 4 months that it takes to vet the applications and score them for points, that we would add from that April deadline another 4 to 6 months. Otherwise, I would probably come back and say, we've turned our application in April, the agreement expires in May, why don't, could we ask you to extend it until they score it out and find out if we get the funding or not? That would be the first part of your question. And I'm sorry, the second?
The second part was if the MSHDA funding in one of those 2 rounds were to be awarded, does that then give you the funds to move forward with construction? Will you be able to break ground? What percentage of your capital stack is that?
Right. Typically, the MSHDA funding would cover at least 70% in the tax credit, and then there's another 10% to meet the agreement. We feel that with the equity that we have in the project, that we would meet that 80% requirement that's in the contract. So that wouldn't need to be altered. But with the funding that we have in place right now, plus the tax credit award, we would meet the agreement in its language right now.
Okay. Thank you.
And if I may, I just want to jump in and I thank you for your questions. I know, Mr. Stimson, when we spoke on the phone at the end of last week, and maybe I misheard you now, but I understood that the longest you really needed the extension through was May 23rd. Am I hearing you now say you might need more than that if April 1st was when you got the MSHDA funding? It's different from what I understood.
Yeah, let's take this October as an example. So the application's due October 1st. They typically don't score and award the application until probably December or January, so 3 to 4 months after that October application has been submitted. So if we didn't get the award in October and we punt to reapplying in April of next year, it'll take April, May, June, July to find out if we got the award. So in the meantime, if the application was turned in, this agreement would expire in May, and we would have to ask for an extension in hopes, because we won't know if we get the award until 4 months afterwards.
Do we have other questions right now? I have a question, or more of a perspective, as we don't have a motion before us, and we have just found out that the time requested might be different than what was initially conveyed. I'm with Commissioner Shaw. I don't really love that this is coming to us late after the deadline. It is a project that we've supported for a long time. I would be in favor of keeping with the original May 23rd, 2026. If this is a great project, October might yield some results. But that then have them come back and, if, you know, whether we want to put the contingency in the motion, that there's monthly updates, or it would, either way, it would be come back to us in the fall or in the spring and let us know that you need that extension, or let this body know that you need the extension. I'm not, this has been around for a really long time, and we've gone through a couple different funding updates, and I know you've gone through some different application processes, and I think we have to be careful. I worry as a body that we get into a perpetual next time cycle, and the agreement originally had the 1 year option, and this would allow us to exercise that belatedly, which again, it makes me slightly uncomfortable, but then the request would have to come to that body for the separate extension at that time. And now others might disagree. We don't have a motion before us, but I think that follows more of the spirit of the original agreement and keeps us in a checking in cycle that I think lets the public know what's going on too with this public property. Mitch?
Yes. MISTA funding has become more competitive in recent years, and ultimately whether an applicant gets funding depends on both how well that scores, how well the rest of the project score, and how the Board of MISTA ultimately decides. But based on the self-assessment, how do you see this project scoring on MISTA's rubric?
We're competitive. We initially
Do you have a
scored
number?
100 points initially. We're
Okay,
down to,
good.
we're at 95 right now. There is a 2-year clause that an RFP being issued has to be within 2 years of date of application to MISTA for the tax credits. We are beyond that 2-year clause, and we fought that because that's an egregious number. They started the RFP, which we all started back 4 years ago in 2021, but we didn't receive land control until 2023. So for us, the process really has been 2 years of working on the project, not 4, but by virtue of the way that the language was written in the QAP, they're sticking to this 2-year time frame, even though the QAP was issued 4 years ago. So we lost 5 points in that category. We're fighting as much as we can. So we're at about 95 points right now.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I don't know how relevant this is, but I wanted to share it anyway. In the Planning Commission, there's been some conversation about the timing for extension of conditional rezonings. And I think that some of the discussion might be relevant here. There seems to be interest on the Planning Commission in actually removing the 1-year deadline for taking action on conditional, or for requesting a conditional rezone. They've discovered that most of the communities in our area simply don't try to fit the waiver process within a particular box of timing, that there have been enough wild cards in the process for availability of materials and availability of contractors, and there are so many uncontrollable elements that Planning Commission is actually thinking about eliminating that 1-year time frame entirely. So I am, as with Commissioner Shaw, I'm favorably inclined toward this project in general. I wonder if, given what we're hearing about the time for response from MISTA, if we shouldn't be discussing either an extension through January to find out what the October 1st cycle produces, or through August of 2026, so that would allow us to understand the outcome of the second round of requested funding. So I would be open to either one of those possibilities.
Can I ask a question of our attorney? Because what we're talking about here is what was covered in a contract, that we would have up to a year extension, or have a year extension in May, which has passed. Is that an option to go for a shorter period than May 2026? Because that was outlined in the contract, could we do January of 2026?
At this juncture, I think you can, because
Okay.
you're really negotiating an amendment to that agreement at this point, since the deadline has passed. So that's, I think that's at your discretion, the board's discretion.
I guess this would be an opportunity, and we don't have suggested language here. What, if someone wants to make a motion for, go ahead, Heather.
Well,
Or a
would it-
question, go ahead.
Yeah, would it make sense then to not ask them to check in monthly and just shorten the deadline up to January and see what happens?
I think that sounds like a good idea. Do I hear Commissioner Shaw making a motion that Sarah's going to supply us with the wording on, perhaps? I think she's checking. Draft?
Is the end
End
of
of
January what
January?
you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here's a proposed motion.
I'm sure it's great, Heather.
That the requirement for a written request prior to expiration is waived, and further that the mayor and interim city clerk be authorized to execute the necessary documents to effectuate the,
Just take that out. the
yep,
extension.
the extension of the purchase agreement for the city-owned property at 159 East State Street to secure funding by January 31st, 2026, subject to approval as to its substance by the interim city manager and its form by the city attorney.
That was a great motion, Heather.
Thank you.
Deserve a second?
There's a second.
Jackie? Okay, thank you, Jackie. Any other questions right now? Go ahead, Jackie.
Some of the community input has raised questions about whether this would have any impact on future contracts for future projects for unnamed developers going forward. Does our city attorney have any thoughts on that?
I'm not concerned about that. This is, this is a negotiated agreement with this party, and the next party, the next piece of property the city decides to sell. If they do, it would go through maybe a similar RFP process, and at that time, that commission would determine what the terms would be. So I don't think you're looking at a precedent.
Thank you.
Yeah, because city land inherently doesn't have a one-year extension or something with it. It's something that was agreed upon for this one. Okay, that's a good reminder. Other questions? Comments? Because we have a motion. Okay, seeing none, then I will go ahead and open this for any public comment. If anybody has any public comment, please feel free to approach the podium. Yes. He's ready.
Well, I'm going to be. Just a second.
We'll wait till you start
I'm
talking.
gonna read the rules.
Oh, she has to read the rules, actually. Don't worry, Doug. She has to read the rules, so
I
you've got
gotta
another
read the rules.
minute.
Hold on. We ask that you state your name and address, indicate if you're a city resident, non-city resident, and/or city business owner. We have a 3-minute time allotment per speaker. When your time is elapsed, the timer will beep, and finally request that all language be respectful to all parties.
Thank you. Doug Dowdy. I live at 1301 South Union Street. And I've started my clock, and so can you. I would strongly disagree with lawyer's opinion that this does not set precedent, though I'm not a lawyer. This is not precedent about a 1-year extension and that sort of thing. It's a precedent about breaking the contract in midstream. And so, although this project has been on 2 of your city commission agendas, it has not been vetted in a public process like a forum or a charrette. And I am not here, though, to discuss the merits or lack thereof of this project. I think some of you feel very, very strongly that this should go forward, and that is completely up to you. Instead, I'd like to address allowing a developer to break a contract and still proceed with the contract. First, let me ask you this. How did we get here? Why are we in a special meeting called on a Monday, announced on a Thursday, and here we are on Monday? I don't know what you folks have been doing for the last 4 days. I was with two grand princesses and loved every minute of it when I heard of the news. And so it's been a scramble to try to get some thoughts together, and some of them I've shared with you. But don't we have a department of our 19 city departments that has this nice big spreadsheet about all of our projects that are occurring in the city? They have all these deadlines in them. Here's what they're supposed to meet and when. Don't we have that? And if we do, then why didn't the administrator of that go to Mr. Stimson and say, hey, John, you have 2 weeks to secure all your funding? Oh, I don't have all 2 weeks. Oh, I don't have it. Oh, okay, well, all you have to do is ask for an extension. Oh, okay, super great. We're not here today. I don't understand that. Don't we have an attorney that would be advising you against setting a dangerous precedent that someone could break a contract and then go back 5 months after it and say, hey, sorry about that. Let's ask for an extension now, which is what you're contemplating. I think and third, I've run a few projects in my lifetime too, and I can assure you that when they were worth $20 million, I knew exactly when my deadlines were. And if I was going to miss a deadline, my bosses knew. And they knew, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm going to miss this deadline. I never did. But if I were, they would be the first to know. And you didn't know, did you? It's a rhetorical question. Please don't ask.
Oh, your timer's selling you out too, Doug.
Guess that's all I got.
Thank you. Is there other public comment at this time? Go ahead.
My name is Barb Zupan, and I live at 205 7th Street. I'll be brief. Reading the paper, it says in here, the Record Eagle, that it's important that we get community support and community awareness. I do not remember, and please correct me, was there a gathering of people for us to, as a community, to discuss this project and understand exactly how the community feels about it? I know your hearts are in the right place. We all believe in housing. This is really a good thing, but my question is the location. Why are we putting, it's late for this, I know, but why is this being put on some of the most expensive real estate in our city? I don't know, I'm just dumbfounded by that, and I wish I would have had maybe a different opportunity to explain myself, but there is no one in my circle of people and friends that support this where it's located. And to put a market on there, little store on there, finding that attractive is nonsense, really. I mean, that's not a selling point. But anyway, I know we're late in this project. I know there's a lot of details that need to be worked out, but I wish you would consider the idea that take this little box that's on the prime spot in Traverse City with parking. Can that little box of 44 apartments be moved to another location? Is it possible to be able to do that? Anyway, good work. Everybody's working hard, I know.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this item?
John Stimson with Homestretch. I agree with pretty much everything that Doug Dowdy said, and I take full responsibility for being remiss in following through on this contract. So I am sorry that I've done that, and I'm sorry I've done it to this body. It was not my intent. I don't feel like I'm breaking a contract. I feel like I'm taking a contract that was out there and taking advantage of an option that I should have been more cognizant of, as well as I think maybe the city could have been, but I wouldn't blame the city one iota. I'm not asking for a zoning change or a height change. There's nothing egregious here. I don't feel like I'm breaking a contract. In our pilot application, there was language in there that reported that we will need an extension, and we put that date in our pilot application. At the time, Liz Vogel was part of the city, and she subsequently left when, in that time frame, we were supposed to have come to you before this time. I feel like there was some nuance there that should be taken into consideration. We have had public engagement to the degree that there are 16 different dates starting in February 2021 all the way through to September 22nd of this year. Throughout the whole process, there's been many opportunities for the public to come forward. I personally have received a ton of support. We have a lot of people working on our behalf for this project. I think it's a perfect fit for downtown, and I think the city would benefit from it, and I think the state acknowledges that. So I hope that you would pass this language in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, because you can't speak twice in public comment. Doug, I saw your hand. I'm not ignoring it, but it's the rules. I wanted to just bring it back really quick and say that I know that 2021 feels like a lifetime ago sometimes, or it seems like a minute ago, depending on what part of our lives we're looking at. But there was a whole process before, leading up to the RFP process for that lot that was examining city lots and spaces that were available for development for affordable housing specifically. There was then a RFP process for that lot where bids were put, or applications were put in, meeting a certain criteria for affordable housing and making it accessible, especially for our workforce downtown. Then through that process, the Homestretch project was picked, and then that's where this process has been going since then. So it was a 3-year with a 1-year. And there were extensive public meetings. It was 2021. That was still pretty limited COVID times. I think we might have been online when we took some of the votes still for some of our meetings. So I understand that there's not always a good time, but that 1.5 years was a very odd time for everybody. But that was a part of a public process that was reached out. So I just want to clarify that this wasn't somebody one day said, we should build something on Lot O, and then Homestretch got a contract, and it was, a 2-meeting process. And so that is the history there, as well as Mr. Stimpson sharing what Homestretch has done since. So just wanted to give that little bit of the history, not saying that factors in one way or another, but that was where the years on the contract came, plus the 1-year extension comes from, is that whole longer process. So go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, and we just went through a strategic planning, extensive community-driven strategic planning, and we have 6 pillars that came out of that, and one of them is building a thriving year-round economy. You need all sorts of businesses and employees. You need minimum wage employees, and this Homestretch project has the capability of helping out with this long-standing employee shortage that we have here. Another pillar is creating a complete community, and it has to do with socioeconomic diversity. I know that's a touchy conversation, but we had a condo sell in Traverse City last week for a record-breaking $3.25 million, nearly $3.25 million. That property could have 2 $3.25 million condos on it, just like the one that's around the corner in the old Cousin Jenny's. Those are also 3-point-some million. What kind of population, what kind of character does that leave in Traverse City if we just have $3 million condos? Another pillar is, where's the other pillar? Strengthening placemaking and neighborhood character, which is the subtitle is protecting the character of the downtown and the neighborhoods. And I think that this is relevant as well. I had friends when I graduated high school in 1977 that rented apartments downtown. They were musicians and artists. There is no place left to rent an apartment downtown if you're a musician or artist. And I think that they really helped contribute to the vibrant music scene that we have today. How many years later? I can't say. Everything we have now is Airbnbs, and it's too expensive. So I think that the all-season residents of the Homestretch project can restore some of these opportunities for new people to come and live here, as well as maybe some of our older residents to have a place downtown.
Are there any other comments? Go ahead, Mitch.
Yes. We have heard in multiple emails and in previous remarks and tonight from public comment about why this location. And there was a process at the start where the city looked at all the pieces of land that are currently used and determined which are underutilized or could be available for housing or other purposes. This was one of them. And while, yes, there are other pieces of land, for example, the Beitner property across from the library, or some cemetery land next to Arrow Park. This is a property that we decided to move forward on, that we had an RFP, and has moved forward beyond the city's initial steps. And I'd say that's reason enough to keep going with the process, but also to the point that I had raised with my question about the MSHDA scorecard and the scorecards for the vast majority of funding sources. Lot O is a project that will score much better than Beitner, which is hampered by an active rail line, active utilities directly to the north, and an active DPW, essentially an industrial zone immediately to the south. Or a place like the Arrow Park area next to the cemetery, which is farther away from downtown. Lot O is right in downtown, where you are literally within walking distance, half mile, of dozens of employers. You're close to a very large employer of Haggerty, even though, yes, most of their workers are remote. You're on the Bay Line, which is the only high-frequency bus line in northern Michigan. So this is a location that is able to get funding, potentially, that other locations would not be. And I'd say that is a good reason that we should invest in the heart of our community and try to develop it for housing.
Thank you for that, Mitch. And just any other questions or comments at this time? I don't think we're trying to relitigate the situation here. I think that that's been a long time, so I understand that people weren't always up on it. So I'm going to bring it back to the question for our motion by Commissioner Shaw and seconded by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so just to be clear, that extends the contract to January of 2026. So couple of more months to see how the October vetting goes, at which point this body will have to be asked for an extension or be faced with other options. And thank you for that. I don't think there's anything else. Do we do final public comment at a special meeting? Okay, sorry. We do general public comment at a final special meeting. So if anyone has any general public comment about anything under the sun, including this, if you want to talk about it some more, please feel free to approach the podium.
Thank you for finding a way to compromise, because that is democracy in progress. Let's just find a way. I know this is a big project for you, and it's dear to your hearts, and so it's dear to mine as a result. So but breaking contracts is dangerous. And so you found a way to compromise. And so let's stay with that compromise. I'm sure we don't need at this point in time monthly updates. What we need is a compromise. And you found one. So congratulations. Now let's proceed and hold forth with contracts. Because next thing, I won't pay my taxes. And you'll be coming to my house and asking me why I'm not paying. I'll say, well, I'm under no contractual obligation to do so.
Thank you, Doug. That's fair enough. Any other public comment at this time? All right, with that, thank you everyone for joining us for this, and I will adjourn the meeting, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.